What's going on, everybody? Josh Callaway here alongside John Hoover, Ryan Chapman at the Alamo Dome, where Oklahoma will take on Oregon in the Alamo Bowl on Wednesday night. Late start here in San Antonio, 8:15 kick. We're here, obviously, ready to go. Sooners closing out the 2021 season. All right, guys, it's a very different Oklahoma team than we had most of the year. We have interim coordinators, players opting out. It's a different looking team all around. COVID is a thing, very much a thing. Bowl games getting canceled everywhere. For now, Oklahoma and Oregon pressing onward. Oregon reportedly missing a lot of guys, but not supposedly for COVID, more injuries. That's certainly hanging over us, but both teams certainly seem confident based on what we've heard so far that they are going to play this game. So for now, we press on. Oklahoma, Oregon, Wednesday night. Again, interim coordinators all around here. Obviously, as it's been well documented, lots of turnover in the coaching department, but Cale Gundy is back, returning on the team. He's going to be the interim offensive coordinator for the game, doing play calling for the first time in his life, in his veteran coaching life. He talked about that.
You know, you've got two interim head coaches, you've got two offensive coordinators, you've got defensive coordinators that are moving on. For Cale Gundy, though, it's business as usual. The guy has been here since 1999. You go back to when he was a quarterback here playing. He knows Oklahoma football. He lives and breathes Oklahoma football. We had a press conference with him this afternoon, and he is excited about Cale Gundy finally gets to call plays. Now, Mike Gundy was an offensive coordinator a long time before he became a head coach. Right. We've always heard every time an offensive coordinator post opens at Oklahoma, you move from Mike Leach to Mark Mangino to Chuck Long to Kevin Wilson to Josh Heupel to Lincoln Riley. Every time a coordinator position comes open, the fans say, what about Cale Gundy? Here we are in the Alamo Bowl. Cale Gundy's finally going to get his chance. He sounded very confident. He sounded very at ease and relaxed with the players that he has. I asked him if there was an opportunity to take maybe some of the things that Lincoln was doing with some of the players and do something different. Is it like human nature to say, I can take Kennedy Brooks, I can take Marvin Mims, and I can do something else with them? Right. He said, no, the players next to me are good players. That's what makes me confident that this is going to be a success. So exciting times for Cale Gundy to finally get his chance. Yeah,
gets to step into that OC role. And the press conference today, it ended, and then he called everybody back and said, no, let's go ahead and keep going. He was enjoying it. He took a few extra questions on the back end there to Mr. Gundy. Now, same story on the defensive side, interim coordinator, but a very different situation in a lot of ways. Brian Odom, going to be the DC, calling plays there. Again, first-time play caller, but A, he's a lot younger, hasn't coached as long as Cale Gundy, and B, he's leaving. He's not going to stay at Oklahoma after this. This is a final run for him, so a very interesting situation for Brian Odom here.
Yeah, for sure, and when you asked Cale Gundy, or when Cale Gundy was asked, have you talked to a bunch of people, all that stuff, he basically was like, no, I've worked under these guys forever. I've watched them. Brian Odom, very different. He basically said he looked through his phone contacts, and anyone who had ever called plays before at any level, he's hitting them up saying, what's the secret? What do you do? All that. So he was just looking for any and all advice. And what he settled on is just be yourself. Let your personality show through with your play calling. So he reinforced, just like Cale Gundy, that you're not going to see a new defense out there. Brent Venables' defense is not suddenly going to roll out for one game, early preview, all that stuff. He basically sat down with the players, the back seven. Brian Odom talked about, the secondary and the linebackers, and said, what do you guys like on the back end? I don't get to talk to you guys too often. What combinations are you comfortable with? So it might be simplified, but he seems at ease with the job, and he's excited, just as Cale Gundy is, for a chance to go out there and call his own plays. A very different energy for sure, but it's to be expected when you have a seasoned vet like Cale Gundy, and then when you put Brian Odom's career next to him, it's relatively just a lot shorter. So searching for advice on the defensive side of the football. Interesting to see how it plays out on Wednesday night.
Going to be very interesting for sure. And again, last game, and then he's off to join Lincoln Riley at USC. Same situation for Jamar Cain. Calvin Thibodeau, meanwhile, going to SMU. So all three of those guys coaching this game. And that's it. So that's very interesting to see what this OU defense looks like on Wednesday night. Now, obviously, the focus is the Alamo Bowl. Team seems to be enjoying it, all that good stuff. Enjoying the Riverwalk. We saw firsthand. San Antonio is a fun city. But the thing that continues to linger and loom is, what is Caleb Williams going to do? He's out of practice. We were at practice last couple of days. He's out there. He's engaged. He's doing all the things. Everybody said he's handling it great. But the reality is he could choose to leave, and next season gets really hurt if that happens. it's a crazy situation, Hoover, that we're doing this game, but also we're waiting for his official statement one way or the other.
Yeah, the hope is that he's not an interim quarterback, right? Like all these interim coaches. Like you said, he's engaged at practice. He's interacting with the guys. He's taking coaching from, Bob Stoops and Ty Darlington, I guess, and not Jeff Lebby and Brent Venables, and those guys are not here. They've not been at practice. We don't know who's at the team hotel, but I don't think they're here. I think they're more worried about who's moving halfway across the country. So they're a little preoccupied. There's no recruiting going on, so he doesn't have anything to do. But in terms of Caleb Williams, it's a deal where the guy he holds Oklahoma's future in his hands, at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah, big time.
He's a freshman right now. He's got 2 years of college football, at the very least, 2 years of college football ahead of him. I think he's starting to understand the value of being the quarterback at Oklahoma, not just the value of being the quarterback for Lincoln Riley, right? You come to Oklahoma to play for Lincoln Riley up and leaves, what do? You say, wait a minute, you have to assess the big picture. Now listen, his goal is to get to the National Football League as quickly as possible. Who's going to make him the most ready to get to the National Football League as quickly as possible? It was Lincoln Riley, as he showed with his previous 3 quarterbacks. Who is it now? He doesn't know. He's probably got some ideas, but is it Jeff Lebby now moving forward? So, listen, we talked to Tim DeRuyter today about him. We talked to Joe Moorhead yesterday about him. Joe Moorhead, the offensive coordinator at Oregon, interim offensive coordinator, actually recruited him.
Right.
Previously, at one of his previous stops, at probably more than one of his previous stops. So, yeah, Joe Moorhead has been around. He's taking the job at Akron next. It's just a deal where everybody knows Caleb Williams. Everybody respects him. And when you talk about a dual-threat quarterback, these coaches and these players that we've been talking to the last couple of days at Oregon, they know all about Caleb Williams.
They do.
So, looking forward, gets out of this stadium, finishes up here. What does Caleb Williams do? That's the future of Oklahoma football for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and look, a lot of fans like to say, well, he's playing in the bowl. Then that's
a great start.
If you're playing the bowl, why would you be leaving? Well, you can't get mad at players and coaches for not finishing the season, opting out and whatnot, and then be like, he's locked in. He's finishing because he wants to finish what he started. Then he's going to make the decision. So it's a tricky spot. And again, until he says otherwise, don't assume anything with Caleb Williams and any of these players. I mean, Marvin Mims said, I want to stay, but he didn't say he definitely was. He's waiting to see the situation. That's what these guys want to do. They want to play the bowl and then see. All right. Then the other big storyline, of course, is Bob Stoops is back. We've been talking about the last few weeks, but it's been crazy actually to be out of practice. Got the same visor, the high crown. It's all back. Bob is coaching this game, we presume, for the final time of his career. Kind of a send-off here in San Antonio.
Yeah, and that's something I asked Cale Gundy about, because when Bob Stoops retired, he retired in the middle of the summer. He retired in June. Everyone was taken aback, surprised, like, yeah, you thought he was going to call it quits eventually, but not then. There was no final chapter on a field. The final chapter of Bob Stoops' coaching legacy was he handed a program in great shape over to Lincoln Riley, who could continue to go win games and perform at a high level for Oklahoma. So now, coming back in, being the stopgap, the interim head coach, Cale Gundy said, yeah, it's going to be special. It's something that he said he's thought about, though he hasn't talked about it with Bob, of this is a chance for a final chapter for Bob Stoops on the field, on an Oklahoma sideline, not in the XFL, not in the USFL or whatever. He's going to be in Oklahoma colors, coached a bowl game for the Sooners. So Cale Gundy, he talked about how the last couple of weeks being on the recruiting trail with Bob Stoops, about how it was like having a celebrity. He's having to take pictures for everyone and all that stuff. Right. So Cale Gundy is obviously, he's been around Bob Stoops as much as anyone. He's been around Oklahoma as much as anyone in this program. Right. He's reveling in this moment. A lot of the players, Tyrese Robinson, Kennedy Brooks, they said that it's added something to this bowl experience that they get to go play one game for Bob Stoops. So it resonates on that sideline over there. Don't know what it'll be as far as product on the field and all that stuff, but it has been a special storyline this week for the Oklahoma Sooners. You can tell it means a lot to them.
Absolutely. Going to be really, really interesting and cool, quite frankly, to see Coach Stoops on the sideline. Obviously, we never had the chance to cover a game with Coach Stoops coaching, who did it a million times. So it's not as cool for him, but for Ryan and I, it's going to be kind of a different thing. So looking forward to that.
Don't make him too mad in the postgame, okay?
Right.
Lay off.
Keep it to a minimum. So, That's it for now. Oklahoma, Oregon, Wednesday night here at the Alamo Dome. Going to be fun. I don't think anybody really has any idea what to expect with this game between opt-outs and injuries, possible COVID absences, interim coaches everywhere on both sides. It's a coin flip of a game. So it's going to be fun here in the Alamo Dome. Expect it to be rocking. It's going to be fun here in San Antonio. All right, that's it for now. Keep up with us. We'll be here Wednesday night, post-game pod, allsooners.com, the place to be. Tons of content there from San Antonio. Danny Stutzman riding a dolphin is on there. If you want to go check that out, great stuff, great content that only you can get on allsooners.com. So that's it. For Ryan Chapman and John Hoover, I'm Josh Callaway.